Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. We have a true legend in the studio today, a man who basically defined the American Western and appeared in nearly 200 films. For those who may somehow not know who you are, who are you?
To most folks, I'm known as John Wayne, or maybe just the Duke. I spent about 50 years of my life in front of a camera, mostly on the back of a horse, trying to tell stories about honor, grit, and the American spirit. It's truly a joy to have the chance to chat with you like this.
It's an honor to have you, Duke. Let's take it back to the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on May 26, 1907, in a little town called Winterset, Iowa. It was a quiet place to start a life, that's for sure.
And what was your given name at birth?
My parents named me Marion Robert Morrison. Now, that's a name that usually gets a second look, doesn't it?
It definitely sounds a bit different from John Wayne. Is there a story behind your birth name or how it changed?
Well, later on, my middle name was actually changed to Michael because my parents wanted to name my younger brother Robert. But as for becoming John Wayne, that happened much later. When I got my first starring role in The Big Trail, the director, Raoul Walsh, decided Marion Morrison just didn't fit a Western lead. He picked John Wayne out of thin air, and it stuck like glue.
I think you made the right call. What was your hometown like growing up?
Winterset was small, but when I was about 6, we packed up and moved out to Glendale, California. Glendale was a different world. I remember the sunshine and the space. It's actually where I got my nickname, Duke. I had a big Airedale Terrier named Duke, and we went everywhere together. The local firemen started calling the dog Big Duke and me Little Duke. Pretty soon, I just became Duke.
That's a classic story. What was your family life like?
My father, Clyde, was a pharmacist, and we moved around a bit looking for the right spot. Money was often tight, especially as I got older. My parents had their struggles, but they taught me the value of a hard day's work. I had a younger brother, and we did what boys do, got into a bit of trouble, but mostly just tried to help out.
What kind of kid were you?
I was active, that's for sure. I wasn't one to sit still. By the time I was a teenager, I was up at 4 in the morning delivering newspapers. I played football, I worked in local stores, I stayed busy. I guess you could say I was a worker bee from the start.
Did you have any big fears growing up?
You know, when you're a kid in a family that's trying to find its footing, the biggest fear is often just the uncertainty of what tomorrow brings. I wanted to make something of myself, and the thought of failing or not being able to provide was always tucked away in the back of my mind.
What did you dream of becoming when you were a child?
Believe it or not, I dreamed of being in the military. When I graduated high school, I actually applied to the U.S. Naval Academy. I wanted to serve my country.
Wow, so Hollywood wasn't the first plan. What were some of your favorite activities in school?
Football was my life. I was good enough to earn a scholarship to the University of Southern California. I loved the camaraderie of the team and the physical nature of the game. I also enjoyed some of the social clubs and theater, though I didn't think it would be my career back then.
What was your first job?
Aside from the paper route, my first real Hollywood job was as an assistant prop man. My football coach at USC, Howard Jones, knew John Ford and got me a summer job moving furniture and equipment on set. I was just a kid carrying around heavy props and trying to stay out of the way.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different or that you had a special path?
I don't know if I felt different, but I realized I had a presence. When I was working props, John Ford started noticing me. He'd throw me into a scene as an extra here and there. I realized I could handle myself in front of a camera, and I liked the storytelling.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Going body surfing. It sounds silly, but I injured my shoulder surfing while I was at USC. That injury cost me my football scholarship and my spot on the team. At the time, I thought my life was over, but without that injury, I never would have needed to work full-time at the film studios, and I never would have become an actor.
That's incredible. What was your biggest break?
My first big shot was The Big Trail in 1930, but the movie didn't do so well at the box office. My real break, the one that made me a star, was Stagecoach in 1939. John Ford took a chance on me after I'd spent nearly a decade doing B-movies.
What were your biggest struggles before that success?
Those 10 years between 1930 and 1939 were tough. I was churning out low-budget westerns, sometimes several a year. I was working hard, but not getting anywhere near the A-list. I faced a lot of studio politics and felt like I was stuck in the mud while the world moved on.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Oh, there were days, especially when money was low. But I'm a stubborn man, Calvin. I figured if I kept showing up and doing the work, eventually the door would open.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you felt were essential?
I believed in being on time and knowing your lines. I had a hands-on approach. I didn't just act. I understood how the sets worked because of my time in props. I also made it a point to treat everyone on set with respect, from the director to the folks moving the lights.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
If I hadn't been an actor, I think I might have stayed in the law or maybe tried to find my way back into some kind of service. Or maybe I'd just be running a ranch somewhere, looking after the land.
What was your life like before fame?
It was simple. Lots of hard work, lots of sports, and trying to figure out how to pay the bills. I was just a tall kid from Glendale, trying to find a way to make his mark.
How did relationships change after success?
Success puts a spotlight on everything. It makes it harder to know who's there for you and who's there for the Duke. I had 3 marriages, and they weren't always easy. Fame adds a lot of pressure to a home life.
Did fame bring you happiness?
It brought me opportunity. I got to travel the world, meet incredible people, and support my 7 children. But happiness? That comes from your family and your friends, not from seeing your name on a marquee.
What was the downside of it all?
You lose your privacy, and people start to expect you to be the character you play on screen 24 hours a day. Sometimes I just wanted to be Marion Morrison, but the world wanted John Wayne.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
A lot of folks thought I was exactly like the characters I played, a rough and tumble cowboy who lived in boots. In reality, I actually preferred wearing a nice suit or a tuxedo, and I wasn't even that fond of horses. I also spent a lot of time on my boat, the Wild Goose. I was more of a seaman than a desert man at heart.
What was your darkest moment?
Being diagnosed with lung cancer in 1964 was a heavy blow. Back then, people didn't talk about the big C out loud. It was a scary time for my family and me.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
People often focused on my politics or the, quote, tough guy image. They didn't always see the part of me that loved literature, or the fact that I considered myself quite a centrist in my younger days. I was a man of many contradictions, just like anyone else.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how you handled it.
Around 1959, I found out that my longtime business manager had basically squandered my fortune. I was nearly broke after decades of work. I had to go back to work and keep grinding to build it all back up. I didn't complain. I just put my boots back on and got to it.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
John Ford, without a doubt. He was a tough man to work for. He could be real mean on set, but he taught me everything I knew about the business, and he believed in me when no one else did.
What was life like in your final years?
I stayed busy. I worked right up until the end. I spent a lot of time with my kids and grandkids. I also used my voice to help fight cancer, trying to take away the stigma of the disease. I wanted to leave the world a little better than I found it.
What were you working on before you passed away?
My last film was The Shootist in 1976. It was a story about an old gunfighter facing his end, and it felt very personal to me. I poured everything I had into that role.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on June 11th, 1979, at the UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles.
What happened?
It was stomach cancer that finally got me. I had beaten lung cancer years before, but this time it was a tougher fight.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was a very good chess player. I used to have a traveling chess set and would play against anyone on set who thought they could beat me.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Oh, there were always rumors about my health or my personal life. Some folks even tried to link me to some pretty dark things because of my name, but most of it was just tall tales from people who didn't know me.
What was your most unique habit?
I was known for being a bit of a prop collector. I'd often keep something small from my movies, a belt buckle or a hat, as a way to remember the experience.
What was your favorite food?
I loved a good, thick steak. Nothing fancy, just high-quality beef cooked right.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
There's a place called Gulliver's in California I used to frequent. It had a warm atmosphere and great food.
What was your favorite book?
I was a big fan of Arthurian legends and classic literature. I read more than people might think.
Did you have any known rivalries?
Not really rivalries, but I had some healthy competition with other actors of my era. We all wanted the best roles, but at the end of the day, we were all part of the same fraternity.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
When I was filming The Alamo, I was so invested that I put millions of my own dollars into it. It was a huge risk, and I spent a lot of time just trying to make sure the history was respected. It wasn't just a movie to me, it was a tribute.
What was your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Working with Maureen O'Hara was always a riot. We'd bicker like an old married couple even when the cameras weren't rolling. One time on The Quiet Man, we were doing a scene in the rain, and we were both so miserable and soaked that we just started laughing and couldn't stop.
Did you ever prank someone?
I liked a good laugh, but I usually kept it professional. Though I might have misplaced a co-star's hat once or twice, just to see them scramble.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
Probably my boat, the Wild Goose. It was a converted minesweeper. It was 136 feet long. Some might call it outlandish, but to me, it was my sanctuary.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Talk low, talk slow, and don't say too much. Beyond that, just keep moving forward. Don't let the setbacks stop you. If you fall off the horse, you get back on.
Duke, do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Well, Calvin, I'd just like to say that life is a beautiful ride, if you've got the heart for it. I'm grateful for the fans who stayed with me all those years and for the chance to tell a few more tales today. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much, John Wayne. It's been an absolute privilege to hear your story in your own words. We've covered everything from your childhood in Iowa to the decks of the Wild Goose and the sets of your greatest films. You truly are an American icon. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.